We only met 6 weeks ago, and no offense to my deceased wife, but this is the love of my life. No offense. Excuse me, the way that I would be in some seance getting up to haunt that man. That man wouldn't know a second's peace for the rest of his life. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Love What Luck. I missed you. It's been a couple of weeks since I spoke to you. I'm sorry. I went on holidays, and honestly, I was really organised, and I actually did pre-record an episode before I went and told you that I was going on holidays and I might miss a week. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get that episode out because it was just so crazy. And then I was going to edit it and put it out, and then I thought, oh, actually, no, I just want to speak to you because I want to fill you in on my holiday. And I had a couple of messages off you whilst I was away, or like just before I went away, and yeah, I want to talk about them. So for those who don't know, I went to Dubai and then I went to the Maldives. Guys, to say I made a spiritual connection with the Maldives would be an understatement. Holy shit, I felt genuinely like Moana. I felt like the sea was calling me, and I just felt like I was restricted really to land, and I've always loved being by the water. Even like Renee always takes the piss because I'm always like, oh yeah, I love being by the river, and she's like, the River Thames is fucking disgusting. Like, it's brown. Why do you love being by it? I'm like, there's just something about being by the water I just find so calming and so soothing and so relaxing. So picture the friggin' scene when I got into this room in the Maldives. Guys, I'm sorry to be this person. It blew me away. We arrived to the hotel via seaplane. I felt like I was in the White Lotus. We rocked up, landed on the sea. A seaplane is mad, by the way. The guy drove it barefoot. The pilot was barefoot, in a shirt and tie, shorts, and barefoot. It was wild. We landed in the sea. The weather was actually really bad when we arrived. It was like a bit of a storm. So we had to arrive in the sea and then get a boat in. I got off the boat. I literally was Jennifer Coolidge in the White Lotus. I got off. Somebody was playing the drums. There was a pair of bongos about. And there were all these guys waving. Tell me why I was filling up. Immediately, I wanted to cry. Tears in my eyes. I was like, this is already the most amazing place I've been. And I've been there maybe 3 seconds, if that. I fucking loved it, right? And then we got to the hotel room and it overlooked the sea. I cannot tell you how much peace I found in that moment. I've never been so relaxed and it just felt like that's where I was meant to be. You know, like literally when you're on holidays and thinking about living somewhere, that was me. I was like, could I be a waitress here? Could I be, I don't know, guest concierge? Could I be a cleaner here? Like, could I do something that could just give me this view every day? Because I was Moana. I played the Moana songs every single day. Every day without fail. On repeat, I was playing, oh, I have crossed the horizon to find you. I was putting one of my videos on Instagram, right? And that song was playing in the background. I was like, cringing myself out. Imagine me sunbathing on holidays, listening, literally on repeat to that song. Also, it's called Know Who You Are. It's only like a minute long. It's not even a long song, so it was just like that on loop. And then obviously I was going to You're Welcome, and I know everybody on this island. For somebody that listened to the song over and over again, I haven't quite got the lyrics down yet, but I will get there because I've watched Moana twice since I've come home. It's like the only thing that's got me through, because the way that she felt when she was looking out to that sea and just feeling like it was calling her and she was meant to be there is just exactly how I felt. And truly, it's probably, right, I was thinking I was going to have the worst holiday come downs from this trip, yeah, because you know that I suffer quite severely with holiday come downs and also with seasonal depression. So I thought the double whammy of this is truly going to send me into a spiral. I did have a little cry the first day I got back, But it wasn't when I got back home. So we flew from Maldives and then back to Dubai just for the night because our friend lives there. So yes, I'm using the term our, and I'm not saying who I've gone with yet. Please forgive me for that. We've got a friend there, and so we just stayed there for the night to like break up the trip. I woke up in Dubai, right, still very much on holiday, and that's when I cried. I was like, I just miss waking up by the sea so much. I miss the whole trip. I miss the people. Everyone was so friendly, and I cried then. But honestly, I really pulled myself around after that. And then the only other cry I had was on the aeroplane. But that was a happy tears. I'm literally that person, right? I had 2 vodka cokes, which the measures on an aeroplane, by the way, they say that they don't want you to like kick off on a plane. And I'm going to need the full can of Coke if you don't want me to be drunk on a plane. Because you're giving me a 50 milliliter Smirnoff and pretty much a 50 ml Coke. It was basically like I was drinking neat vodka. And I had 2, obviously. So your gal was a little bit tipsy, and I was that person tipsy. Moana playing, obviously I watched Moana 1 and 2. Never seen the second one actually, and honestly don't know if I'd ever seen the first one because I watched it and I was like, I actually don't know if I've ever seen this before. It kind of was like watching it for the first time. Or I don't know if it was just because I was watching it like post Maldives as this like new person. Anyway, I was literally sat on the plane and looking at my looking at my photos and crying with gratitude. And a place has never touched me like that. And I've done like the solo travel, and I've had, you know, big experiences when I'm abroad because, you know, I do like to make quite a big deal out of certain things, and I feel a lot. Like I just have a lot of feelings. This place friggin' hit me like a truck. It was just perfect, guys. It was just perfect. Unfortunately, I did look like Maui and not Moana. The hair was quite out of control. I just had to give up with it in the end. But yeah, you could snorkel. So for the majority of the days, like I kind of thought, you know, I bought a new bikini, and I kind of thought like I was going to be like some, you know, maybe some sort of like hot. You know, I even took bikini bottoms. And I was like, I'm just going to sunbathe topless one day because, you know, like nobody's going to see and stuff. No, your gal was in a scuba diving mask, snorkel, life jacket and flippers, I would say, for 80% of the time. There was no hotness about me on that trip because I just loved it. No, I love by the sea, right? It's all rough and ready when you're on top. When I put my face under, I just felt instantly calm. And funny enough, I saw a TikTok, right, of somebody saying they rediscovered goggles in their 30s. And I thought, why did we ever stop using goggles? Because when you can actually go underwater and see, everything is so much more enjoyable. I actually think I'm going to have to buy a pair of goggles because you can be in the water and it's one thing, but it's choppy, you're not really seeing much. Put your head down in that goggle. I loved it. And then, yeah, TikTok obviously fed me exactly what I was thinking. So I'm probably going to have to buy goggles now for all my holidays because I did love being able to see underwater. It literally was a whole new world. Actually, on that TikTok, one of the comments said, being in your 30s is literally like being born again. And then somebody said, your 20s are so traumatizing that your 30s, you just want to feel joy again. Oh my God, actually, there's so many comments of people like in their goggles saying I had this realization last year that's going to be me. Catch me in a pair of goggles anytime I'm on holidays with the sea now because it was amazing. But yeah, I feel that. I actually feel that a lot. Like when I was going through my tough time last year, I do feel like I ended up reconnecting with my inner child, which actually, like, I don't use that term ever, but I did find myself, like the stuff that I was looking on for comfort was actually stuff from when I was younger. Like I went to Holland with my family and we always used to go to Holland when I was younger, like every single year. And I went back there, was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. Yeah, last year. I went back there and I found myself like buying things that I wanted to, like when I was younger. Like I was like in the stationery shops and I was like, let me just go in the toy shop. I mean, clearly I was like crying out for help. I think I like my mother bought me a colouring book and stuff. No, just like when you when you're going back to like simple joys. I think there's a big thing in that you just for some reason you lose the things. You think like, oh, I'm a grown up now. I can't be swimming with goggles. I can't be colouring. And I'm like, why? Because those things still make you happy. Have you seen the videos of that? There's a toy of a shell that you put it down in the water, and when it gets to the bottom of the pool, it opens and Ariel flies up. Remember like those toys you used to have where you used to pull the string and then the spinny thing goes up in the air? It's like one of those, and I'm just, fuck it. I might just buy myself a doll. So anyway, way off track, but my holiday blues have been okay, guys. They have been okay. Although what I will say is, and I stand on this rock, no, what's the saying? This is the rock I die on, the hill I'll die on. Don't know the saying, right? But I stand by this. And I said this when I was out there. Corporate makes you ugly. Working a corporate job drains your soul so much and drains the life out of you so much that it makes you ugly. That and a UK winter are the two things that I feel are catastrophic to your soul. And I knew this immediately because as soon as I touched down in Dubai, I'm not lying, my skin had a glow about it. By the time I got to the Maldives, I looked so well rested. And I even came back here, right? And I had day one in the office, and even my boss said to me, you look exceptionally well. And I knew it. And I was like, thank you. I've had more sleep probably in that week than I have all year. And I just feel really rested. Obviously, not an ounce of stress, you know. By day 2, I look like absolute shit. The tan on my face is gone. My shoulder is peeling. The bags are definitely back. I had work drinks. And, I mean, it'll be a shock to no one that in the morning I said to myself, not going to drink tonight because I want to be productive tomorrow. I've started with a new therapist. Guys, we will get into the episode shortly. I'm sorry. I haven't spoken to you for so long, and I've just been excited to get all this off my chest. I've started a new therapist. I'll tell you about that later. And I was starting that in the morning, and I was like, you know, I knew I wanted to record an episode and stuff, and I had to like unpack, because you know what it's like? You come back from holidays and you're straight back into work, which is cruel and horrifying in itself, yeah? So I was like, don't get drunk. And then I said to myself, right, realistically, I'm going to have a drink. Because at first I thought, let me just not drink alcohol. And I thought, no, realistically, you're going to want a glass of wine. Fine. And I said to myself, the bar in work closes at 9. If I can leave at 9 o'clock, then mission accomplished. I can be home before 10. Do you know what I mean? Then it hasn't ruined my day the next day. And we actually all left at 9. And then me and my colleague were walking back, and both of us typically are usually the last ones out, and it was just us two, and we were like, can't believe we've actually finished at 9 and we're going home, can you? And he was like, no, it never happens, does it? And I was like, no. And then tell me why I decided to sabotage myself, and I said, and we literally walk in, and I said, well, do you think we should go for a drink? It was almost like I couldn't believe that I had done what I'd set out to do and left at 9. And then I was so shocked by myself. It's like my body didn't know what to do. It was like I didn't know how to react. And then it was like, no, we should go for a drink. So we turned back and went to another bar. I got in at 12. And then I had a severe headache. And then I was just like, all my holiday glow's gone. But yeah, just like that, you know, that corporate day, when I think about it, I would have left, you know, I would have got up at, say, 6:37, left at 8, and then I got in at midnight. Like, that's such a long day to be, like, out and about in the city and drinking and the pollution and the stress of the city life. And it does show on your face. Like, there's a reason that people that, you know, island people just look so healthy. They get in the vitamin D, they get in the, you know, they're chilled all the time. And there's just something about, like, city life versus, like, island life. Or I suppose village life is quite nice as well. Because actually I always was well rested when I'm back in Wales. I just think, like, the corporate, like, city... Yeah, the city life is hard. And the corporate life. Anyway, right, sorry. Let's get into it. I got a message from one of you guys. And it was a dilemma one. Okay, she said, Sid, I need your help. I'm messaging for a friend. She said, this couple have been having the same argument for years, and I'm just reaching out to see what other men and women think. Both men and women work in the same hours a week, 37 hours. Women also have to work full time to pay bills, the same as men. But as an aside, there is still a stigma around women still having to run a house, cook, clean, look after the kids, etc. Could you ask your audience if they think men should have an equal share of household responsibilities as women? Living in the 21st century, and this person is still a bit old-fashioned in his ways. He thinks that if a man earns more money than a woman, despite working the same hours, a woman should be the one to contribute to a higher percentage of household chores and taking the sick leave if the kids are ill, etc. What does everyone else think? I actually didn't think that there was still these beliefs around for like our generation. Like I'm very aware that that's it for an older generation, but I don't think I've haven't experienced that. Like when I've been with somebody and living with somebody, I've lived with one of my boyfriends. But like being with them, I've never felt that. And so this was quite shocking to me because obviously, I think it's going to be obvious to all. I feel like it should be equal because it's very different. It is very different if somebody is in work the whole time and somebody is at home not working. Because there is also a myth around somebody that works from home should do more around the house. And that needs to be broken as well because just because you are from home, you're still working. And best believe, like, when I work from home, I'm working from home. Like, you're doing exactly the same from home. And yeah, you're able to, like, empty the dishwasher for 5 minutes. You know, like, obviously you can do that bit. But, like, you're not just home all day, just, like, chilling out. You're still working. I feel like that's probably an argument in some households. But if both people are actually working and away from the house, it does not matter what money you earn. To me, that's not even a concept because doing household chores should come down to who's got the most time, I think. Like, who's most available. And what I mean by that isn't like, oh, you have Friday off every week, so you clean every week. I don't mean that because that's not fair. I just mean, like, I think it should be give and take where somebody's having a really busy week in work, so the other person picks up the slack a little bit, you know, and it can be give and take. At least that's how I like to work it. I'm sure there's some people out there that prefer literally like, let's write it down on the calendar. You do this on a Monday, I do this on a Tuesday. Like, there's definitely some people like that, but for me, I wouldn't like that. And I'm just more like, I just like to feel equal with my partner. And, you know, if they are in work and they're not going to be home till late, yeah, I'll tidy the house or I'll clean because I don't want it to be messy. And then equally, I would expect if I'm busy in work or like if I'm away, I don't want to come back to a messy house. You know, if you were there, if you were home early this one day, then you just put a wash on. Like, and it should just be give and take and it should be fair. But especially if you've got two people that are doing the exact same routine and they work in the exact same hours and they're away from the home the exact same hours, how can you justify the money thing? I think that goes deeper and I think he's just saying, you're the woman and you need to do it. And he's probably using the money as like a justification. But the money thing makes absolutely no sense to me. If you were earning more money, pay the cleaner then, mate. That's what I would suggest. Use your extra funds to pay a cleaner if you feel like you cannot possibly fit cleaning in or, you know, looking after the kids or whatever. So obviously I went back and I basically like said my thing. I said that 1,000% I think the household chores should be equal. You both working full time. You have the same spare hours in a day. No excuse for the man to be doing less at home. That's so old school. She said, I know that was my argument, but not from the guy's point of view. It's a reoccurring argument in their relationship. His thought process behind it is if the salary is higher, more responsibility in the job, right? Not always, but yeah. But is it the case of make or break if they can't settle on this argument? I mean, there's going to have to be some bending. I think personally, the answer probably is outside help. Now, I've never actually had a cleaner because they're expensive and I've never been able to justify the cost, and I've never felt like I've needed it. So I know saying like, oh, just get a cleaner, like sounds privileged. I do, like, I get that. Because like I said, I wouldn't pay a cleaner. But if he is so against cleaning, then he should pay the cleaner. It shouldn't, your wife or your partner, wherever, isn't a cleaner. Like, you've both got to contribute to the home and looking after the home and the kids. And if you can't do it, then outsource it, not your wife. That's my take on it. But guys, yeah, let us know what you think. Obviously, comment or send me a message, because obviously she's asked for other people's opinions. Also, if we've got a guy listening, then yeah, we'd love to hear your opinions on that. Because it is just old school, and I really feel like we'd moved kind of past that now. I would think so. Although, do you know what? I have been having thoughts this week about, like, it really is just like a man's world, or it has been a man's world for so long. I was listening to the Victoria Beckham Call Her Daddy episode. I absolutely love Victoria Beckham, by the way. She's so iconic. And she was talking about, and I'd seen this now, after she had, I think it was Brooklyn, you've probably seen the clips like resurface now of how bad it is. She was on Chris Evans's show, and it was like, I can't remember how long after she gave birth, but really not that long, like a couple of months. And he got her scales, her weigh-in scales, and he made her get on the scales in front of everyone, see if she'd lost the baby weight. And I was just like, oh my God, it made me so angry. Because, like, I couldn't remember that happening at the time, but just, like, thinking that was okay to do, and it was always a man. Like, nobody's going around calling, like, men fat or, you know, poking at their bodies, or, like, she was saying that there used to be headlines calling her Porky Spice. Porky Spice? What the hell? Like, it's just so disgusting. And I feel like it comes from men, because I just don't think there's a world where another woman is like looking at a woman's body and like critiquing it and saying how bad it is, even though, like, I guess fed to women. I just think it's all actually set up from like a man's point of view of like how a woman should look, and you know, they shouldn't age, and like there's a reason that men don't have this, and it's because they've been the ones like pushing out the narrative. Do you know what I mean? You know, if they've always been in the higher jobs, like they've been probably years ago, they were the ones probably controlling the media. So they are putting it out because they want their wives to like be in good shape and stuff. It's just so sick. I'm so glad that like we're out of that now. That would never happen now. And thank God. Also, guys, this bottle, right, is from Aura Sky Pool in Dubai. When I got to Dubai, I had the loveliest solo morning. And I'm so big on solo stuff when you're on holidays. It just like feels so different. It feels like you're really romanticizing your life. And I actually said to myself out there, I was like, I need to do this when I'm back home, which I have done on one of the days actually. I had a solo morning, and I booked myself into like a yoga class, because obviously I love yoga, Pilates and that. And I did it in a sky pool, so like overlooking the Palm in Dubai, which was amazing. Anyway, they gave me this bottle. It came as part of it. Amazing. To be fair, it was water yoga, right? And it was giving water aerobics. Like, it was actually not for me. Water yoga was not for me. Also, I was absolutely shit. I was just floating about, basically, and bobbing about. I couldn't keep in a straight place. We had to use a float, and floats just absolutely go through me. And you know, the only downside for me feeling like I need to be in the sea, I cannot stick when my fingers go all wrinkly. That feeling of my skin going wrinkly, just, oh my God, it goes through me. I hate it. So that wasn't for me, but the place was stunning. And then I got myself a matcha, and I walked around the Palm for like an hour, like on the path walk, and I thought, this is so lovely. And yeah, I really recommend somebody to do that. Like, put a nice podcast in or some music, and just have some time, like just some time by yourself, especially in a new place. Because I feel like I must have said this last year when I did it in Denver. You're really only focused on you and what you want. And I just feel like you take more things in and it just like feels really nice. And actually when I was there, I was having breakfast by myself after it because you get breakfast included as well. It was really good. And this girl came over to me because she was by herself and she was like, oh, do you mind if I eat with you? And I was like, no, of course not. She was from India. And she'd got married and she was showing me all her wedding videos. It was insane. It was a 25-minute long video. She had like Indian weddings are insane, aren't they? They're so grand. And she was like, it was quite a small wedding for us, 500 people there. I thought, 500 people for a small wedding? I don't even know 500 people. Honestly, a small wedding to me is like 50? I don't know. It doesn't even feel like I know 50 people, but I suppose when you add up all your families and plus ones and stuff, then, and obviously you've got the other person as well, and they're family, then I suppose 50 people is tiny, isn't it? But like, I can count my friends on my hand, probably. Maybe stretch to 2 hands, like... I really haven't got a massive group around me. To have 500 people in a wedding. Insane. Oh, wait, no, I can definitely count my friends on 2 hands. Probably people listening like, what? But yeah, it's definitely cute to have a solo day. And that is what I did when I saw my new therapist. So I love how I came back to this podcast and I was like, I've stopped therapy. I've got a studio. I'm recording this from my friggin' house because I couldn't get the studio. So there are definitely still going to be episodes where I'm at home, I think, just like impromptu ones. And I hope that's okay. And yeah, so here I am now at home and I've started therapy again. I like don't necessarily, like I'm not in a crisis mode for needing therapy, which I always think is a good thing. I'm just like, I actually told my therapist, I was like, I'm just really into self-development. And she was like, you seem like somebody who's really interested in understanding themselves. And I was like, I really am. Like, I have such an interest in like knowing how my brain works and why this is like that. And obviously I've had anxiety and stuff in the past and like depression. And I just think it's fascinating how you can go and speak to somebody and then understand it and then you feel better. Crazy. So anyway, I kind of went to this one and she's in person and I've never gone to one in person before. But I did romanticize that as well. There was a Gales opposite. I had, guys, a dark chocolate from Gales, dark hot chocolate. It was the best thing I've ever had. It was like, you know, the hot chocolates in Europe, like when it tastes like melted chocolate. It was like that. Probably not for everyone. It was very rich, but oh my God, it was divine. Anyway, what I liked about this therapist is that she says she's not a fan of having people come to therapy like when they no longer need it. And she said, like, because I get it on my healthcare, and she's like, I think you get 20 sessions. And I was like, yeah, I think they're quite relaxed. So, and she's like, look, if you need more, then obviously we can look at it. But she was like, 20 sessions is looking at about 5 or 6 months. And she was like, I would like to think that, you know, we're not even going to need all of those. Like, I want to speak to you and then have like a long lasting effect. And I was like, wow, so this actually might be the end of my therapy journey. So I'll keep you posted on that. I feel like she's going to be really good and I can bring some findings to the pod. Okay. I had another message. It was actually like a comment, I think, on YouTube on the episode that I did with Ryan about the like women's biological clock. And I was really glad that this was raised because the term clock is ticking is a term I absolutely hate. And when, obviously this is like no shade to Ryan, and that's why I didn't want to like say it on the episode because I didn't want him to be like, oh my God, I've said the wrong thing as a man. Like he hasn't at all. That's just like what people call it. And that's just what it's referred to in it. The clock is ticking. But I hate that saying because it just feels like, to me that sounds like every woman's goal is to have a kid and, a kid, I don't think I ever said that before. Every woman's goal is to have a child and, you know, your life basically is the ticking clock constantly and then that's going to stop. And if you haven't had your child by then, and this could be coming from a very touchy woman, I don't know, but there's something about it that I just hate. Can't help but think, what I said on the episode, like, as a woman, I'm very aware that I'm not going to be able to have kids forever. Of course I'm aware of that. So yes, it does affect me in terms of, if I want to have children and get married, I'm not going to spend a year with somebody that I don't think I can do that with. Like, I am not going to waste a year with someone if I don't think you can be a father to my children now. It sounds so dramatic, but that's just the reality of it. Because otherwise, if I didn't want children, or if I'm not thinking about it in that time, completely different. And yes, I would still date somebody. I'm not always only looking for somebody who can, like, be a father. Of course not. But I'm just not going to get into a relationship with somebody if I don't think, like, I'm going to marry him. If I don't think, like, you're going to be a good parent or a good life partner, I'm just not going to waste a year with you. Obviously, and people have probably thought that for a long time. I never had that in my 20s. I was never, ever thinking about that before. And I actually remember somebody in uni, my friend in uni at the time, said to me, and I must have been like 19, I think. And I had this boyfriend who I was with for 3.5 years, right? And she said, like, oh, you know, do you think, and she had kids young, she literally had a baby when we were in uni, and she says, like, oh, do you think you're going to marry him? And I was like, no, definitely not. And she was like, oh, why are you with him then? And I was like, I'm so far away from marriage that I'm not even thinking about that. I knew at some point we were going to break up. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing to be, sometimes I think, like, wow, I wish I wasn't like that in my 20s, maybe, you know, you don't know, like, maybe things would have worked out differently. I don't know. I always knew that I wanted to get married. I didn't always know if I wanted to have a child, but I always knew I wanted to get married. So I just used to think, like, if I was with somebody that I thought, oh no, I can't marry you, it was okay at that age because I wasn't thinking about marriage, do you know what I mean? And now that I'm at an age where I am thinking about marriage and, you know, thinking about potentially having children, now I wouldn't spend 3.5 years with somebody anyway that I didn't, like, feel serious about. But, like, in my 20s, I would say, like, I used to have year-long relationships. So yeah, my point is, now that I'm thinking about that, I'm not going to just, like, spend a year with somebody. Like, the thought of spending a year with somebody now and it kind of not amounting to anything. Obviously, like, you can spend a year with somebody thinking you're going to marry them and then break up. That's a different thing. But, like, the thought of just, like, plodding along with somebody for a year, knowing in my heart that I can never marry the person, that horrifies me now. And that is because of my age and just because, not just because of the children thing, but I just think, like, as feel like I harp on about all the time, I just think, like, when you get older, you just become more aware of wasting time. I'm just like, oh my God. I know it's like sometimes I have those overwhelming thoughts and I'm like, you only have one life. Like, why am I wasting a second of it doing something that I don't want to do? So anyway, I feel like there might be a little bit of scaremongering around the pregnancy when you're older. And as I said, like, my mother had me when she was 40, right? Which never sounded crazy to me because I think it's quite common now. But she said, like, at the time that she was, like, embarrassed because she's the older sister and Lucy, you know, my cousin who's been on the podcast, her mother is the younger sister. So my mother's one of 4 and Lucy's mother is the youngest, and they were pregnant at the same time. Like, me and Lucy is only 5 weeks apart. That's, like, we're so close. And my mum said, like, she was embarrassed. It was like, oh my God, like, it was a big thing. And now I think, oh my God, it must have been, because even now people are like, oh, she had a child at 40, amazing. Even though it's, like, more normal, there's still, like, a little bit of, oh wow, she had a child at 41, like, amazing. So I can't imagine what it was like then, over 30 years ago. But I do kind of feel like there's a thing, and I was even, like, trying to research it before this episode, and there is lots of stuff like your fertility does a sharp decline at 35, and even me reading that, I'm like, shit, I'm 35 next year, and the stuff that you can read, I think, can be really scary, and I think sometimes it's important, obviously, like, obviously it's nature, and I'm not saying that all that stuff written is like lies, but there's so many examples of women that do have children older, and I just don't think, I think that needs to be like more normalized. So I am coming in hot with a list of celebrities who have had children later, because there's a lot, guys, right? And I'm just going to breeze through them. Number 1, Halle Berry had her first child at 41, right? Fine. Then she gave birth to her younger son when she was 47. 47. In an interview with Ellen DeGeneres, she revealed that her second pregnancy in her late 40s, which she explained to be a geriatric pregnancy, was a total surprise. She says, I was, on my way. This is probably way TMI, but I was really kind of premenopausal, so to have this happen was a huge shock. So she still had a baby at 47. And actually one of the things I read was like, basically the percentage of having like a child over 40. Oh, here we are. There's a 36% chance of successfully impregnating a woman under 35. Which already sounds low, 36%. And that's because a child is an absolute miracle. Like the whole cycle that has to happen for a woman to be pregnant and then like give birth to a healthy child is such an amazing miracle, So 36% chance is already quite low because it's so special. But I think people might have thought, because I didn't know it was 36%. I think it's almost fed to us as if there's like 90% chance of getting pregnant and then under 30, and then you hit 30 and it goes down to like 10, and then you're like, panic stations. But it's actually like, no, I just don't think it's like that, right? Then there's a 22% chance for women between 38 and 40, which I think is still pretty good. 13% chance for those 41 or 42, or about a 6% chance for women over 42. A 6% chance doesn't sound a lot, but it's not zero. There's still a 6% chance. And like, how many stories are there where people, and I've even on that list, were getting IVF and like really stressing, and then they just conceived naturally, like Kourtney Kardashian. She went through that whole thing, didn't she? She got pregnant, I think she was 42. So I just feel like it needs to be a little bit more normalised and not spoken about. Like, as I said, me researching this is the first time I'd like actually looked at the figures of like, there's a sharp decline at 35 and then even sharper at 37. And as somebody, if you're a woman consuming that, it could like really panic you. And I've just never gone into that. I've always stepped back and I've always just said like, well, as I've said, like I've always been around older parents, so it's like never even been in my head, but I can see how easy it is. If you're fed this all the time, how easy it is to panic. And I don't know, hopefully this is just like a little bit of lightheartedness, that if you are in a situation where you're panicking or you're feeling stressed about it, that like you probably don't need to be. You've still got a percentage of getting pregnant naturally, and that's without like IVF and all the other like additional things that you can do to help that. Like, still alive and kicking. And then I also, actually, let me go through the list a little bit more. There's Susan Sarandon. No, that's not right. Susan Sarandon. Right, this actually, I always thought her name was like Susan Sheridan, I think. Who knows? I'm sure you know the actress. She had kids at 42 and 45. Meryl Streep gave birth when she was 42. Salma Hayek gave birth to a daughter when she was 41 years old, and she said, I thought I was going to need help getting pregnant, and I didn't. She tried for a baby, she had the baby at 41. Salma Hayek, by the way, so friggin' hot. I've actually seen her in person. When I worked in that restaurant in Notting Hill, she came in once, so hot. But have you seen, I was just going to say a story, and I've realised I mixed her up with somebody. So unfortunately, I can't continue the story. Guys, I did this with because I just saw Nicole Kidman on this list because she had kids when she was older, and she's married to Keith Urban at the minute. And I thought Keith Urban was Kurt Cobain. I thought they were the same person. I said on last week's episode, or the episode with Ryan. Anyway, ignore me having a meltdown here. Janet Jackson's on having a baby at 50. unconfirmed whether that was natural or not. But even if she could use IVF and stuff, like, she still carried the baby herself at 50. I think that was confirmed, wasn't it? Yeah, Jackson gave birth to a healthy son. So we just need to break that up. And also I Googled how old can men have kids. And it says, whilst they can potentially father children well into their 90s, their fertility does decline with age too, particularly after 40. And the risks of premature birth, low birth weight and other health issues for the child can increase after age 45. A man's fertility starts to decrease in his 40s, although this is not as abrupt as the end of fertility in women. But it does decrease, and testosterone levels decline with age, which can affect libido and sexual function. But I'm just not hearing this everywhere. It's not like well known. Nobody's going to a man at 40, well, you know your chances of getting pregnant now lower in, they decrease in. Nobody is saying that to men. I just don't know why it's always fed to women. Also, men typically die younger. Yes, they're more likely to be able to have a baby at 50, 60, wherever, but they're probably not as likely to be as healthy. This actually isn't fact-checked, but it's like things that I'm pretty sure of. But like, don't come for me if that's wrong, if you're a doctor. But they do typically die before women. And it's just like, just because you can have kids easier than a woman at, say, 60, doesn't mean you should. You know? Does not mean that you should. Also, men just get so moany in their old age, don't they? I think men are so much grumpier than women. And again, like, women get called nags forever. No. Women are so full of life and love. I just think men can be moany bastards when they're old, honestly. Also, guys, if you've got any stories, please send them through. It has been a while, actually, since I've had a story from one of you guys. And I actually spoke to the new therapist about this, because obviously I told her about my podcast and stuff. And do you know what was nice? Was like telling somebody new about the podcast. It was mad, because I could tell how, like, happy it made me. And, like, she commented on how my posture, and I've had this before, like, when I speak to people about it, like, how they say that my face lights up, you know, like those types of comments. And I actually, like, she said to me, oh, how did you think of starting a podcast as such, like, a pivot from, what you were doing? And I said it was interesting, because when I actually started, remember I was doing, like, I have obviously got, like, a big interest in dating and love and stuff. And I said, I love a love story. And she said, oh, do you mean, like, good love stories, or, happy love stories, or stories where people have needed to work on things? And I was like, actually, I started it wanting to spread happy love stories. And then along the way, obviously I had some very upsetting ones. And I was like, it kind of helped teach me that love isn't always perfect and romanticized. And it was like a big shift for me, that I felt like these stories helped teach me about, what people go through and stuff. And yeah, I was just talking about, like, the community and how amazing it was, and how much, like, I love having these stories. And then I was like, I haven't had a story from one of you guys for a while. So please, if, wherever you're going through at the minute, then come and let us know. It's sadie@lovewhatluck.com if you want to send me a little email, or you can DM me at Sadie Maltby at lovewhatluck. Or just, like, leave a little comment on the videos, on YouTube. And also, please remember to subscribe whilst we're here. But yeah, I know, like, a couple of you, I feel like, have been DMing me. But if you've actually got a story to share, of, like, how you met your partner, or whatever's happening at the minute, then yeah, come and let us know. I actually saw this story, which I have to share. It's just a quote, actually. It's not a story, right? From a man, an old man, who says, it's a picture of him and this woman, right? And it's from the Humans of New York exhibit in Grand Central Station in New York, yeah? And he says, we only met 6 weeks ago, and no offense to my deceased wife, but this is the love of my life. No offense to my deceased wife. Well, offense taken, sir. Offense Very much taken. Imagine spending your life with a man dying and then him saying, no offense to her, but actually this is the love of my life. Excuse me, the way that I would be in some seance getting up to haunt that man. That man wouldn't know a second's peace for the rest of his life, and neither would she, actually, whilst we're there. Because best believe, if a man's saying that to me about his dead wife, that's a red flag to me. Say it about your ex who's very well, live and kicking. Say that to me. No offence to her. I know I married her. Like, if I was ever with a divorcee, those words I would long to hear. No offence to her, like, but you were the love of my life and that marriage was a mistake. Music to my ears, of course. But if she died and that's the only reason you've broken up, not because, like, there were issues, and you were telling me you were the love of my life, I'd be like, well, one, don't speak about your dead wife like that, 'cause it's disrespectful. Two, why did you stay married to her for so long, you old man? Like, that's not attractive. Well, you stayed married to her for somebody you didn't even love that much, and now you're popping off with me. No. It's an absolute no from me. The audacity, even at bloody, like, 80 years old, the audacity. No offence. No offence, but I actually didn't even love her. Didn't love her. No offence, though. No hard feelings. Again, you want to watch your back, I'd be in, if I was a ghost, I'd be in coaching for, what do they call those really bad ghosts? Poltergeist. I'd be poltergeisting my way out from hell to come and speak to you. I'd be like, I'd be moving the knives out the cupboard, opening the cupboard doors, moving stuff around, putting the lights on and off, just as they dropping off to sleep, I'd be putting the TV on. I'd make their life hell. Okay, guys, now I've got they're just like very short and sweet this week. But here we go. I soulmated so hard that we broke up. I threw his picture off a mountain. We didn't speak to each other for years. I married someone else, lived in a different state, and we still ended up together. And they got married. That type of love story I love. And she says, if you love someone, set them free. If they come back, they're yours. If they don't, they never were. That's given MSN quote. I 100% had that written down in my MSN quote book, which I would love to find, actually. Remember, like, I found my diaries before? Next time I go home, I would love to find. I used to have this book and I used to write quotes in it, like a tragic teenage heartbreak person, even though I don't think I'd ever been heartbroken as a teenager. Anyway, hate the quote, but that is amazing. There's loads of people I think that, like, feel really cynical about that. You know, I can imagine some people being like, if it was the man that married someone else, being like, oh, but he married someone else, well, now he's just coming back to you. But I don't view it as that. I do view that as like a proper love story, and you just needed time to figure it out and come back. I think it's sweet. Okay, and lastly, there was this theory I found. I know this episode's a little bit different this week, guys, but as I said, I just wanted to chat to you and, share some things. Hopefully that's okay. Let me know your thoughts. I discovered this week something called the bird theory, and it's from the Gottmans, or, you know, that married couple, Julie and John Gottman, who are like relationship experts. And it says, if you really want to know whether your relationship will last, watch how they respond when you say, look, a bird. So it's like if you're at the window, and I think I've spoken about this before, I don't think it was called the bird theory, but I've definitely come across something like this before, where if you were with someone, your partner, and you say like, oh my God, look at that bird out the window. If they don't go to the window with you, like if they don't look up and they just, they look at their phone, the Gottman's research said that couples who turn towards each other, even in small moments, have dramatically higher relationship satisfaction and longevity. It's not about grand gestures. It's that every day I see you and I care about what you care about. And I thought that was so cool, because imagine you did say, that would break my heart, by the way. Imagine I was like, oh my God, look at this dog out here. And my partner just goes, oh, no, I'm not coming, and couldn't be asked. It is just like, it is just a little bit rude, and it does show that that they're not like interested in what you're interested over or anything. Whereas if you say like, oh my god, look at this, he hasn't got a tail, and then somebody comes over, they come over and they're excited, then then it makes sense. They're excited about what you're excited about, and they care what you have to say. So that's a little test, guys. If you were in a relationship that you're unsure of, do a couple of examples, because they could just be having a bad day, or they could be doing something really important on their phone or something. Do a couple of tests. But yeah, I think that's very good, and let me know your findings. Okay, I think I'll wrap it up there then. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe, share the episode, follow on Spotify. Please leave me a review. I would love to see that number go up. And send me your stories, guys. Come and tell me what you're up to. And I will speak to you next week.